Oh, hello. Yes, it is time for Thai chicken and coconut milk soup, the soup of your dreams, your favorite dish in every Thai restaurant. Don't lie to me, I know it is. Easy to make at home, and that's what we're making today on AZ Cooks Instagram Live. Coming to you from our beautiful studio kitchen, high atop the beautiful Rockefeller Center. No, we're not in New York City. We're in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Thank you, as always, to my fantastic sponsors, the good folks at Shun and the wonderful people at Flor de Caña. We could not do this show without them, so we thank them very, very much. I'm super excited today. There are certain recipes that I get a little more jazzed about than others. This is one of them. But this is everyone's favorite Thai soup, and it's one of everyone's top 5 favorite Thai dishes. You will see it on menus as chicken coconut milk soup. You will see it as gai tom kha. You will see it as tom kha gai. And it is all this. When you taste it, it is that wonderful, wonderful combination of lime leaf, coconut milk, aromatics, and chicken that make this soup just a global fan favorite. But it's one of those soups that no one makes at home. It's stunning to me. It's easier to make than cream of broccoli soup, I promise you. A couple things about it before we get started, although I'm actually going to put my chicken stock in. I am going to start and then tell you a couple things while this is coming up to a boil. I just put 4 cups of chicken stock in there. If you're a vegetarian and you're just going to use more vegetables and not chicken, use a really nice vegetable stock that has a lot of strength to it. Even if you're going to I make this with shrimp all the time. If you have shrimp or shellfish stock around, by all means do so. But I will use chicken broth for this if I'm using shrimp. Pieces of fish, I'll put fish trim into a bag and I'll just put fish. This is just the greatest vehicle for protein or just on its own with lots of extra mushrooms and other veg. It's one of my favorite soups and my family adores it. But what is often required are a couple of pantry ingredients that people just, for whatever reason, don't want to put into the shopping cart, but now they're available at every single supermarket in America, so you do not have an excuse. You should have fish sauce in your cupboard. You should have tamarind puree in your cupboard. It is sitting there in the international aisle of your grocer. You should have a chili sauce, preferably a Thai chili one. If you don't have Thai chili sauce, you can use sriracha. You can use a Chinese fermented chili bean paste, douban or tobanjan, goes by a couple different names, depending on what dialect and how they're spelling it on the label. Big American labeling issue. You could use a Thai red curry paste if you have some left over drying out in a little container in your fridge. But this is that spicy chili piece of it that is very vibrant. If you have those things, you can do this because you can then find little chilies. And these are green Thai chilies, but if you don't have those and you're using a serrano or even a jalapeno, go for it. Ginger and lemongrass is sold in every single supermarket now in America as well. From big box stores to every big retailer has it because so many people are cooking in this style now, and there is nothing better than true citronella. We went to our neighborhood supermarket just to prove this point. You do not need to go to a specialty shop. And this is sold already cut like this in little pouches. So I thought I always show you the whole plant, right? And these are 4 foot. There's a lot of green that goes up here that you cut off. And then there's a little bulbous root that you cut off. And I save those. And I'll tie them together in a sachet and use them to infuse in a batch of soup. But I also save them for the bath. Or you can just get 4 or 5 bundles of them out of the freezer and just throw them in the shower when you take a shower. I'm dead serious. It will reek of lemon in your bathroom. But this is the usable part that's here. It's very, very fibrous. So what I suggest for those that are cutting it or working with it for the first time, take a slender, small, a petty knife, a small slicing knife, and very carefully, and the reason that I want a smaller knife is I want you to be able to choke up on it, and just run your knife down the middle. It doesn't matter if you perfectly bisect it or not. The point is, you just want to be able to lay this fibrous seasoning flat so it doesn't go anywhere. And then you can take out an Asian vegetable knife or a standard chef's knife of some type, whatever you happen to have on hand, and just slice thin. Now, the world is evenly divided. I'm talking about the culinary world. On whether you should just split this and tie it and throw it in so you can pluck it out. What I have found is that if you have lemongrass and you're going to be simmering it for 2 hours in a broth, or you're going to be making a stock, and you're going to take that stock into an Asian place with sweet aromatics and ginger peel and lemongrass, I put it in a sachet and throw it in so I can pull it out easily. If you are doing a long braise, I will do the same thing with it. If I'm cooking just for a short amount of time, I want a bigger punch of lemongrass flavor because it takes a while for those essential oils to come out. And in that case, I love finely mincing it like this and letting it go in to the soup. What you don't want to do is do something in between. You don't want to put pieces like this into soup because it's not going to break down, and people are going to have trouble chewing it. Whereas nice tight mince, they're all going to be great with. Ginger, we talk about this all the time. I get the most out of my ginger by making sure that I peel it with a spoon. You can see here that if I peel it with a spoon, I actually can scrape up the sides of those little knobs so I get 100% usage out of my ginger. That's really important to me. If you added up all those little knobs that you cut up and disposed of in the kitchen, it'd be a lot, right? So let's go for full utilization. My chicken stock, you can see the steam coming up there, so I'm going to add all of my stuff here, all of my seasonings, ginger and lemongrass and brown sugar, and a handful of these lime leaves, my lime juice and my chili paste, my tamarind. If you have something that's kind of sticking, just loosen it up by pouring it close and just dipping it into the hot liquid. Tamarind is a tropical fruit. It is sweet and sour at the same time. It is a linchpin of Southeast Asian cookery. You can't really cook the foods of so many different cultures and countries and people without it. And it is, by the way, I use it on my lamb when it comes off the grill. I use it in stir fries. I go through tamarind puree like crazy. And there are many different brands on the marketplace. By the way, so many people these days are cooking food from the Desai countries like, India and Pakistan and et cetera. You can't cook that food without tamarind puree or concentrate. It's so handy. So all I want to do is simmer this for, 5-10 minutes, something like that. Just let it gently go. So once my pot starts to simmer with this, I just add those ingredients so I can infuse those flavors into it. What else are we going to add? Well, later on I'm going to garnish with some leaves of cilantro. But we had a lot of extra cilantro. So some people don't like cilantro. Leave it out, that's fine. I love cilantro, and I actually want to put some of that flavor into the broth. So I just mince some up so it just disappears in there. That's number one. Number two, in my recipe, I call for Thai red chilies floated on top because I love the flavor contrast. We have a lot of earth tones in here, and we have some green tones from the herbs and stuff. But we just had the green ones in the market today. So it's the same thing. Just cut it super fine. You can do that on an angle like that and create a nice shape. Those sort of angles I think look very attractive in soups. You can go straight across in slices, right? It's all going to do the same thing, right? Don't like to waste. I'll just slide those in there. Do you notice what I did with my spoon? I slid those little chilies up onto the blade with my spoon. So now I can touch my eyes. I could rub my nose or my ears. I could even go to the bathroom and not worry about a horrifying burning feeling anywhere on my person because I have not touched raw chili. Thai chilies are hot. But even, even a jalapeno that's not so hot, if you are sensitive to it and you get some of it on your fingers and you touch your eye, oh, believe me, you are going to wish that you never had. So just be safe around chilies. I just see so many people make this mistake. In a little while, we're going to add our mushrooms and our fish sauce. We'll let that simmer for a while, but that's actually going to go in after our chicken. This is, this soup, I see it all the time on menus made with chicken breast, which dries out, and if you try to reheat the soup after you make it, the thinly sliced chicken breast is crumbly. My experience with this soup in its place of origin is they don't use chicken thighs. They don't use chicken breast, they use chicken thighs. So, I want to show you how I cut this. It's super, super simple. Oh, that's been boiling now and it's been 5 minutes. In go 4 cups of coconut milk. And we will wait for that to come to a simmer before we add our chicken and our mushroom and our fish sauce, and I taste it for lime juice. I always like, in the recipe, I have the lime juice going in later. I usually, these days, throw my lime juice in now, and then I'll add a spritz of lime juice. Sometimes I'll just pass limes at the table. So I have 2 flavors, well, 3 if you include the leaves of lime in the soup. Lime leaves, nice sweet floral note. Lime juice that's been cooking for 20 minutes by the time this soup is done. Yeah, it's 20 minutes, start to finish, pretty much. And then a little bit at the end so it's brighter, right? Acids get deflated in flavor and aroma by heat. So what I usually do is I cut in half. And then what I'll do, at an angle, I will cut thin strips, so that they curl up and they sit on your soup spoon, right? Why don't I cut it in chunks? That would sit on your soup spoon as well. Well, sure it would. But the problem with chunks of this soup is really simple. We're not cooking it for long enough, and everything else would overcook, and the bright flavors of our aromatics would kind of flatten out and get dull. Does that make sense? So I want thin little slices. I want it all to happen fast. So again, just at an angle, thin slices, and you really can't, don't get into analysis paralysis. You don't need, pieces that are, paper thin. But just try to cut as thinly as you can. It's all about the flavor and the texture. And as long as you're thin, it's going to happen for you, I promise. Whoops. All right, so chicken is ready, mushrooms are ready, everything there is ready. While this is simmering, and before we add this, I want to also note for you, we want this soup to have the body that comes from the thickening of the coconut milk. So pay attention on the recipe to the amount of time that is required for this to boil. Now, you know, when a recipe calls for boiling it with the coconut milk for 10 minutes to thicken a little bit, you will notice a change. But it's going to be a lot different if your pan is this big and it's a 1/4 inch deep, or if your pan is really narrow and it's 10 inches deep. I like to cook in a big pot when I make this and just have it 3 or 4 inches deep and let it go for 5, 7, 10 minutes. You know, hopefully you're watching out and you're not vigorously boiling. Just letting it simmer or low boil. It takes about that long for the coconut milk solids to sort of start to clot together with everything, and it actually will thicken a little bit. Do we have any questions or comments about this?
Is this going to be too spicy for my Minnesotan mother?
Oh, great question. Or your kid, or your mother-in-law, or someone who just doesn't like spicy food. No, not at all. As a matter of fact, you know, I threw a couple of those chilies in there just because I was showing you how to slice it, and I just can't throw it away. It's a reflex reaction. But if you want people who, this soup doesn't have to be spicy at all. Don't omit the tablespoon of chili paste. That gives a background warmth. It's not really spicy at all. And as it cooks for 20 minutes, that kind of bright, acidic chili paste is just gonna disappear and go away, right? Just omit the little chilies that you float on top, because someone, especially a child that doesn't like spicy things, I've been there with my own, will bite into it and start crying at the table because it's hot. But most people, I think, dig spicy soup. It gets your, what is it? It gets your, not your serotonin. There's an effect that it creates happiness in your brain. Spicy food is good, and it's good for you as well.
You gave us a really good tip about lemongrass in the shower and the bath. Do you take a lot of baths?
I do. I think people who don't bathe, it's not that you know, everyone can do their own thing, but I'm sort of suspicious. Who doesn't like a very traditional, big, drawn bathtub and just soaking in it? I mean, is there anything better? You know? If you don't like baths, I have an idea for you. Light some candles and invite someone in with you. Why are you shaking your head, Madeline? That makes it more fun. If there's someone I knew who said to me, I just don't like baths, I would say to them, you should invite someone to take one with you. And by the way, were you weren't, no, I wasn't going in that direction. I was talking about like communal bathing in, you know, in Iceland, or where you have these incredibly large pools and people gather and get in there together, and it's festive and communal. Well, I was also talking about that other thing.
My bathtub would not fit.
Well, you know, I mean, you may need a bigger bathtub. But yes, I do like to bathe. I also, I was not joking, lemongrass, ginger peel, there are other aromatics that we pay a fortune for in the bath bomb section of the, put it this way, you can either save your own lemongrass and ginger peels and lavender stems or anything else you got that's in that direction and make a sachet for your bath or shower, or you can pay $40 for it on Goop. And I'm a big Goop. Everyone's why do people bash Gwyneth Paltrow? She's a really, really nice lady, and she's doing the Lord's work.
Have you ever heard that cilantro tastes like soap?
Yes, and this, by the way, I'm really glad that you brought that up. So here's the deal. One thing that I learned growing up was that half my friends hated cilantro, and I adored it. And when I first went over to Southeast Asia, I noticed that everywhere they had cilantro in something, they usually had mint. And I asked a chef over there about it. I said, don't half the people here not like cilantro? And he said, well, no. He said, because, you know, despite the fact that there is something just in it, that some people will like it more than others, he said, our kids all grow up eating it, so it doesn't really happen that way here. It's, you learn to love it. However, for some people who find there's a soapy aspect to it, try it with an equal part of mint with it. Mint has a very antiseptic quality to it, and when the two are mixed, it's heavenly. So if you think about it, in all those salads, in all of those rolls, in all the places that raw cilantro is, not cooked, raw, you will find mint 99% of the time, and that's why. All right, hold on. No. I just, you know, I know we have a lot of questions. Everyone's really excited. I am putting my chicken in there. I'm just putting that big wad of chicken in, and I'm just going to stir it. The heat just breaks it up instantaneously. It was boiling, and I lowered it to a strong simmer. But now what's going to happen is I put all this cold chicken in. So now I'm going to raise the heat again a little past medium to get it back to that place faster. I'm also going to add all of my sliced mushrooms. Do not put in bean sprouts or other things that are going to take 2 seconds to cook. If you want bean sprouts in there, put it in at the last minute. If you want glass noodles in there and crispy noodles and you want to turn this into laksa or something like that, understand how much more cooking has to take place. We have about 7 or 8 more minutes of cooking here, so you don't want to put something in that's going to turn to mush. But if you're making this with just vegetables, thinly sliced carrots, fennel, you know, whatever you want to put in there will work, right? And I know this seems like a lot of mushrooms because they're all floating, but it's not really. I mean, this soup is about that mushroom and chicken combination in this incredible, savory, aromatic broth. So there you have that. Anything else?
What's your favorite kind of mushroom?
Oh my gosh. That is a really profound, I had never considered that. I love mushrooms of all types. You know what I don't like? Mushrooms that don't have flavor. You know what I also don't like? People who poo-poo on the white button mushroom. The white button mushroom, while it has a larger water content, has quite a lot of flavor to it. And what I do, I trim them and I leave them whole, put them into a bowl with a tablespoon or 2 of oil, and just toss it so they're just barely coated, and put them in a single layer on a rack and throw them into a 350-degree oven for 25-30 minutes. They get golden brown, all that moisture evaporates, then take them out and cool them and saute them or put them in soups or stews or whatever. It gets all the water out of them. You know, I love all those fancy mushrooms. I mean, who doesn't? Because they're fancy and expensive because they're usually foraged wild and they have really unique flavor. So, you know, yeah, I like morels and golden chanterelles and black trumpets and all the rest of that kind of stuff. But a white button mushroom has a cousin that is natural, right? It's Italian, it's called a cremini mushroom. It's small, it's brown. When you overgrow a cremini, it becomes what's that mushroom that I hate? The one with all the black fuzz on the bottom a portobello. Oh my God. Stop eating portobellos. Not that I want to yuck on your yum. A portobello is just an overgrown cremini, and they just found a way to sell people on it. If you're going to use portobellos, by all means, trim off the stalk, flip it over, and cut that black underbelly off. It just makes your dish dirty and it just muddies it up. And just use the white meat of that mushroom. Don't get me started.
I'm sorry. Have you ever been foraging for mushrooms?
Oh, haven't I? Yes, many, 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 many times. And I'm training my dog Luca to do it because his breed is trained to sniff out all kinds of things, and there are trainers for legatos that will teach them to hunt down deer sheds, mushrooms, ramps, all that stuff here that we have here in Minnesota. So I'm actually very excited about that. By the way, just a quick check-in. Our chicken and mushrooms need about 3 more minutes. Then we're going to hit them with our seasonings and make a little magic and serve this up.
Do you have a favorite soup or stew?
Do I have a favorite soup or stew? That is another really. This crowd is asking great questions today. Stew, I'm going to have to go with, a braised chicken and wine thing, because I can make it brothy and put dumplings in there of all kinds, bread dumplings, matzo, a million different ways. Keep it tight, more like coq au vin. So I love that meal in a bowl. And for soup, what's my favorite soup? I don't know. I make soups and stews, and actually I make I make hybridized versions because I'm a huge meal in a bowl guy. Every meal that I make at home seems to go in a bowl. So I don't know. Congee. I'll go with congee. I've been cooking it a lot recently.
Did you have fun at New York City Wine and Food?
I most certainly did, and for all of those that came out, thank you. And for those that don't, make plans to come next year. By the way, all the proceeds from New York City Wine and Food Festival and South Beach Wine and Food Festival, which are run and organized by the same teams, all the dollars go to good causes. And we've had low attendance this year as they came back because they purposely restricted space because of COVID issues in New York and in South Beach. So we raised fewer dollars. And one of the recipients of money from this year's festival in New York was God's Love We Deliver, which delivers food to people who are horrifically marginalized with all kinds of diseases, just from from AIDS to elderly shut-ins with autoimmune diseases, and they do special diets. I mean, they really are doing incredible work. So I would encourage everyone. I'm just turning this down a little to simmer. You can go online and make a donation to those organizations. Please, please, please do. By the way, speaking of all that, a couple things. Check out all of my stuff. Go into my timeline and hunt down all my recipes. I think we also have them on my website for Hillshire Farm, the smoked sausage people. They deserve a shout out. I just did a thing with them and posted a bunch of recipes and a cool video on how to use stuff out of your freezer. And I made a fried rice recipe with their product, and it's just, it's awesome. I keep Hillshire Farm Little Smokies in my cupboard, in my refrigerator all the time, because that's my Sunday with barbecue sauce snack. I've told everyone about that for years. But I also keep their ring sausage in there, which eats like a less garlicky kielbasa. It's fantastic. And sliced and browned in an omelet, in fried rice. I put it in all kinds of things. It's great, it's easy, it's fast. Shameless plug, they're good people. Try their sausage. But I created 3 cool recipes for them, so you want to check that out. And I'm trying to think of what else that I have going on. I think that's about it right now. But always check out, if you're not getting the newsletter at andrewzimmern.com, you should sign up for it and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. All right, if you come over here, this has been simmering now for those 10 minutes, but you can just see in the last minute or two, it just tightened up. It's now soup consistency. It's just got a little bit of thickness to it from that coconut milk. And I know that my chicken is tender and that my mushrooms are cooked through, right? Because the chicken has started to curl. The mushrooms are limp. But I don't want to you can overcook that stuff. You don't want to desiccate it and just toss all the flavor out of it. So I'm going to add my fish sauce, which is an acid, right? So I want to make sure that that's nice and vibrant, a flavor in there, and we don't drop that down. And what I'm tasting for right now, I'm tasting for salt seasoning if I need it. I typically don't salt this soup because the fish sauce takes care of that. And I'm tasting for that balance with the lime juice. So if I need to add a little spritz of lime, I can. And I'm just tasting the broth. That. You like the way? The no-look flip and catch? Yep, I can do that. I can't juggle, but I can't whistle, but I can do that. That's perfect. All right, so the only thing that's going to happen now is that our fish sauce flavor is going to diminish slightly, right? If you don't want a strong fish sauce flavor, and I wouldn't describe this as strong, but if you're sensitive to it or you don't like it so much, add it in bits until you're comfortable with it. If you add fish sauce, let's say you mismeasure or you use a really cheap one and it has a weird flavor to you in some way. I mean, because it's like wine, right? I mean, there's really fancy fish sauce and then there's, dollar a bottle stuff. I go somewhere in the middle for my everyday use. Just cook it for another minute or two. You'd be amazed. Add a little pinch of brown sugar to it to sweeten it a little bit. Add a little lime juice to cut through there. But usually just cooking it for a minute or two will knock it down about 15% because it's acidic. And heat will kill it. Or diminish the flavor. It won't kill it. All right. So as you can see, once everything is wilted and cooked in there, I know Madeline likes to have a pretty picture, so I want to fill this appropriately. You have a beautiful balance of broth and chicken and everything. Take my knife and not my finger and just throw a couple of chilies on top of there because this is how I serve it in my house. And then typically what I do, because leaves, right, are lovely for eating, is I'll put a couple leaves on there and they'll just drop down in there, but then I'll usually put some on the stem. I know all the cilantro haters out there are freaking out right now. It's fine. Once it goes in the soup, it just disappears and becomes the essence of lovely. This soup right here is absolutely out of sight. I'm going to kill the power on this. If you come across a lime leaf in there, drop it back in. You don't want anyone biting into that and chewing it. In fact, you can throw them out. Once they've been in there for 15, of course now I've got 2 of them on there. Once they've been in there in anything for 15 minutes cooking in hot liquid, do you want to know what happens? All the flavor is out of the leaf and you just got this fibrous plant object in there. Great for compost, not good for cooking anymore, and you don't want a guest to accidentally bite in to that. It's very, very, very unpleasant. So there we have it. I just absolutely love this. Great soup. Yes, I serve this with a spoon at my house, but I love sipping out of the side of the bowl. But you do need a spoon to capture all those goodies in there. So, I mean, look at that. This is that Thai chicken and coconut milk soup of your dreams. Super easy, super simple. My God, is that good. Here's the deal. Recipe is on the website at andrewzimmern.com. You have seen pictures of this on Instagram many different ways, most recently with shrimp and noodles in it. Cook your noodles separately and then garnish with fried noodles and you will have a monster meal that everyone will love. Sour, sweet, salty, hints of bitterness in there from the lemongrass and the mushroom. This ticks every single box for the food of Thailand. Just absolutely gorgeous. And everybody, I mean, this is a universally beloved soup. Easy, easy, easy. You can make it at home. As always, be kind to everybody out there. The world needs more of it. Enjoy.